The Senate has okayed warrantless email snooping. Now, a lot of headlines are saying that this is something new that is now legal. This is not the case. What happened was that there was some language that was in a bill which would have ended the practice, which was already legal, and that language has been removed. So in other words, the Senate has okayed not stopping the warrantless email snooping, which is, I guess, tacitly saying they're okay with it, right?
It seems to be.
Yeah. In any case, legislation was sent to President Obama this week with this piece quietly removed, and it would have forced law enforcement to obtain a warrant to read people's email. And right now, private email that's been stored by a third party more than 180 days can be accessed by the government with absolutely no warrant. People were hopeful that this would be changed. It's not going to be changed, and that's that. I've said that on the show, and I don't agree with this argument that if you're not doing anything wrong, why do you care? I totally disagree with that. What I have said, though, is that I assume, I mean, we use, when you have cloud email and cloud storage of stuff, it's obviously available somewhere other than just to you. I operate under the assumption that all of my email is probably being read by someone. I don't know if you do this.
I think that's probably a good assumption because they are trying to have, they're having a hard time finding out the extent to which all emails are looked at and or all stored.
Yeah.
For how long, what they plan on doing with it then. So this would have been a little bit of a safeguard.
Right.
But now that safeguard is right out the door.
Now you have, I'm assuming it's corporate dictated, this line at the bottom of your emails,
like
which say, what is it? It's like a whole paragraph of,
never even read it.
If this was unintentionally sent to you, then please delete it without reading it. Of course, to even get to that paragraph, you would have had to already read the email. It doesn't really make much sense.
Maybe you read that part first.
Right.
Yeah, why did they put it at the bottom?
The policy should be you scroll to the bottom, see if there are any disclaimers about the email, and then you go and read the email. In any case, do you assume all your email is essentially public? Not that everybody, like your neighbor, is reading it, but that there is a record of it somewhere, which if you ever commit a crime, any email you wrote could be looked at. Do you assume that?
Well, I try not to commit crimes, and if I did, I would not use email.
Okay.
Because I think exactly that. Do not ever put in an email anything you don't want your mom and your wife to know.
Is that really what it is?
That's what I kind of think.
Now, the thing is, okay.
I use the phone for that.
Okay, so are all phone conversations recorded? I don't think we have evidence of that.
Well, there is.
But text messages are kept.
There is talk that the extent to which warrantless wiretapping of phones goes on is also not entirely known.
Natan, what do you think of that?
I'm seeing a pattern here. Like, we have phones that are tapped, we have text messages, we have emails. None of these things existed before the 20th century. Let's just act the way we did in the 19th century and start from there.
If you did that, you would not live in what sometimes amounts to what feels like a police state, where we are constantly, at least, under threat of being monitored at all times.
There are very different views from what I guess I would describe as the far left and the far right. But sometimes the points of agreement are on this type of thing for different reasons, right? I mean, and it's really often linked to what the government may or may not do. I mean, some super lefties that I know say that they hate guns, they have no interest in having guns, blah, 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 blah. But they worry when the government is the only one that has guns. That's the one thing that gets some people, which we're starting to hear from people like Larry Pratt, who we had on this show, and then I was on Chris Matthews and on Piers Morgan. And he said part of the reason we need guns is to protect ourselves from the government. There's extremes sometimes where the left and right come together, and I think privacy for different reasons sometimes is one of those.
That's why I actually don't like thinking about it as left and right. It is more like a continuum. So you've got your real progressives over here, and your Ron Pauls over here, who on many issues actually think the same thing.
It's kind of like Christopher Columbus sailing out, and you pop back out on the other side.
And we land in America.
Right.
I just want to address very briefly the whole Larry Pratt thing. Like, honestly, I agree with what you guys are saying, but specifically on this point, it already is the case that we don't have access to the government's weapons. If we had access to Apache helicopters and tanks and nuclear weapons, which our government has, I don't think that I would feel safer than I do now. And there's really no difference. I mean, I think it's a pretty gray line to say that, we can have handguns, which is really dangerous, but we don't have, tanks. I mean, why don't we just say, well, let's have everything?
Yeah, then we have an arms race against our own government. It does make me feel nervous that the government has the extent of the weaponry that it does, but good luck Joe Hunter to try to take down a Navy SEAL team if they come in the blue helmets.
I'd be fine if Sarah Palin had nuclear weapons, personally. I'd be fine.
She could nuke Russia from her house.
Because she can see it. Yeah, exactly.